also saw him go with an armory and an academy, and both of them were canceled. He actually suspected that Flash might be going right behind that wall in, and when he finally saw the command center, he recognized that he didn't need to have those buildings up so quickly, so he canceled both of them. So that's what those two canceled buildings are, and really is also taking a base at the bottom left pseudo island expansion. And Flash now going into the natural expansion and saw that there was no command center there, so he's got to be a little bit concerned here what's coming his way, whether there's like maybe some sort of like drop coming his way, some sort of break count follow-up to this. What exactly is really doing that would have him build where he doesn't have this natural expansion yet? Flash has got to be working through his mind, trying to figure out exactly what he's going to be facing.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of worried for Really right now. Flash has a lot of units. Okay, he does get siege mode out in time, so Really should be fine for now, but Flash had way more units than Really did there for a second. I was kind of worried that he was just going to get straight up loose to a timing attack, but he gets siege. There's 3 tanks. They're all behind cliffs and depots and stuff like that, so should be fine. He's actually unsieging now. I hope he doesn't go too far forward. He might lose a couple tanks here. If Flash scouts the bottom left position, there is no way that Really is ever going to be able to defend that. So Really is completely relying on the fact that Flash has not scouted what he's doing, and that's kind of a risky thing to do, but I think that's exactly what to do against Flash. Trying to gain any advantage you can, trying to go for 3 early bases to be able to get an economy lead on Flash, who is known for a better macro than anyone else, especially on even bases. So if he really has an extra base to his name, and I think he might have a good chance of doing pretty well, but it's going to depend on whether Flash can scout that base. Flash has a tendency to sense that something is going wrong and that isn't quite right, and deal with that and figure out what's going on immediately.
I think Really actually is trying to call Flash's build. When he saw that command center the time that he canceled the armory and the academy, I think he also recognized that Flash was most likely going to follow or factory, since he I think he used his barracks to scout around a little bit, didn't see a starport or anything, so I think he was calling that he wouldn't have a starport, and without that starport and a dropship, there's no way for Flash to get down there to the bottom. That's all he could send was a bunch of SCVs like that, but there's no real way for him to get there, and I think that was what Really was counting on, and he kind of called it. He called it correctly. There's still no starport for Flash. There's no dropship on the way, so that bottom left-hand base should be very, very safe. And provided that Really gets a starport out relatively soon, which he does actually, and we'll probably get a dropship as well very, very quickly, he should be able to defend that bottom left base with relative ease. And as we go forward in a few minutes, once his natural expansion kicks in and he's got 3 gas going, he's actually going to have a big lead, because Flash is going to think that he's playing 2 base on 2 base when really it's 2 base against 3, and Flash could end up caught off guard if Really is able to play this correctly and try to hide just how much he actually has flowing into his coffers.
Yeah, the Flash is going for him right now is that he has this really tight contain on Really right now, very tight contain on Really right now, and actually with the amount of tanks that he has and just the positioning the base and the buildings inside Really's base, Flash could be able to spin at buildings a bit, and just anytime that Really's units AI messes up a little bit and doesn't catch it right away, units can just randomly wander to the top of his base and get picked off by the massive line of tanks that are there that can reach into the base and do have vision inside the base thanks to the floating barracks of Flash. So Really he's going to have to be a bit careful of that. And actually, yeah, he's got tanks coming to the back as well, just seeing if you can pick at any straggling buildings. And there is a depot there that's going to be vulnerable. Great abusive tank positioning there from Flash, just taking any advantage you can. And I think Flash is just taking the inside, I think that's a mirror-only base, at the inside 3 o'clock.
No, it's got a gap.
So it's going to be, okay, so it's going to be 3 base versus 3 base. Obviously that's a bit slower than Really's 3rd base was, but it's not going to be a huge advantage for Really. It might be a workable advantage for now. Tanks actually engaging now. Really's tanks coming to the back of his base to try to save the back of his base so that he can actually build there, picking up the tanks that Flash has in there. 1 left, but he should be able to deny that for now. Really actually has to deny every edge of his base, just because of the layout of this map. This map is Fortress, correct?
Yeah, it's Fortress.
Yeah, so there's just one of the weird things that you have to deal with on Fortress, not having a high ground, and just because you can get into the base from pretty much anywhere. with the massive range of siege tanks. I still don't think that Flash has scouted the bottom right, so he might think that he's getting a huge advantage now, getting his third base before he thinks that really has a third base. So if Flash doesn't figure out that he isn't at a huge advantage, then that might be a problem for him. There are dropships out now for Really, so it's going to be interesting to see what Flash's reaction is when Really comes out with way more than Flash expects.
Yeah, and Really's coming out with 3 dropships right now, dropping off some forces here at the bottom right, so he's going to try and get a 4th base up as well. And I think what we're going to see here from Really, probably get up to 4 dropships, maybe wait till 5. I think he'll go with 4 and try and break this line that's containing him, drop off a bunch of tanks and vultures and things right on top of those tanks and bring out forces as well from inside of his base. I think that's how we'll probably see him try to break the contain. His other option would try to be to work some dropships around, try and hit a base. But I think that's a little bit riskier. He needs to be really careful of running into turrets that Flash is placing around the map. So I think he's going to go for a break pretty soon in the next minute or so. I really expect to see him wait for a couple more rounds of units, pick up some units, and then try and break that contain. But he does, of course, have that option to try and work around it as well. And I think he actually, I don't think he's going to go to break the contain. I think that's what I would have thought that he's going to do. But it looks like he's going to try and work his way around. And there are turrets all over the place. And while Flash maybe doesn't know exactly where the dropships are right now, he's got to suspect and really actually just dropping off some units here at the 9 o'clock main, and he's going to crawl them around. So he's going to try and get some map presence here with a ton of Goliaths as well as a few tanks. He's going to blow up a bunch of these turrets. He's going to get some map presence going. And Flash responding here with a few Goliaths as well, some tanks moving into position to try and stop these forces from going any farther. But this is really important for Really because this will stop him from getting completely contained in the southern portion of the map. He now has another flank to work with. If he can keep these forces alive, he'll be able to work from the left side of the map as well and be able to drop forces there. Or if the game continues and he's still not able to dominate, get into the middle of the map, that's another place where he can potentially build a base if it gets to that point. So just having a presence here and there, moving those dropships around, trying to take control of the map is definitely going to help Really out, as right now he's just been, controlled into the bottom 1/4 of the map, just looking at where red is and where yellow is.
Yeah, in TVT more than any other matchup, territory is a valuable commodity because the game so often goes to late game that bases are mined out, and you really end up having to take every base. And once every base is taken, whoever has the most bases is probably going to win the game. So the person with the most territory is able to take the most bases, and if you can contain your opponent to a small portion of the map, then just hold that position, then you're in great shape, which is what Flash is going for in the early game here, putting on that contain in the middle. But there's a lot of dropships out now, for Really 5 dropships. I would imagine completely full of tanks and Goliaths, and Flash, I still don't think he has a starport or wraiths. Okay, he does have starport with a couple drops, but I would imagine that wraiths would almost be good right now to try to be able to keep the number of dropships down from Really, keep him from being super mobile with his army. He's going to be able to set up here at the 9 o'clock, and Flash isn't going to be able to do very much about that just because of the maneuverability and the ability to reinforce that position with the dropships. He's now sending the dropships back to his base so that he can get more troops perhaps, or go for a drop somewhere else. Flash, meanwhile, is just going to have to defend pretty much the entirety of the middle of the map. He has access to just about every base, but being able to defend them all would obviously be very difficult to do. Really carelessly losing a dropship there in the middle of the map, but he's at the same time expanding to the 9 o'clock, and I think making another command center to float up to the kind of 10 o'clock.
Yeah, this game is going to be one of those very interesting games on Fortress, where you have one player trying to work around the perimeter, and one player kind of has the middle of the map, which is what we've seen. I've seen a couple of TVTs actually work this way. It's really complicated, and it ends up being very tactical. You got to use your scans efficiently, got to keep track of where your opponent's dropships are. At the same time, try and put pressure on as many points as possible, try and get your forces everywhere. I mean, this is like a real-life battle. This is like a real-life war that you see going on here with so many little things going on. Anything could happen anywhere at any time. You never know when a couple dropships are going to drop some units here, and you're just going to get a sudden harassment or a big push out from really that tries to break the contain. Anything could happen. And here comes Flash with some dropships of his own, going to try and stop the 9 o'clock base from going up. Here comes really with his own counter drop, but poorly positioned there. He's going to drop off his forces too far south instead of dropping right on top of Flash's forces. So he loses basically everything that were in his dropships right there. So that was poor by really, and Flash able to basically destroy what really had in those dropships and bring in more forces. So this could actually be really bad for really. Flash's dropships coming in here going to take out this entire 9 o'clock base very likely, and could actually do more damage. Here comes really with some dropships with a lot of Goliaths for Flash, so he's going to struggle to drop them in here, and Flash with more dropships could bring in some more forces and maybe try and drop this bottom left base as well. So this is a really tough spot for really. Has to defend the 9 o'clock base and the 10 o'clock base as well as the bottom left. And so this is going to be a high-stress situation. He's got to try and figure out the best way to try and deal with this and try and take out some of the dropships, try and take out some of the forces for Flash. But it's a really tough spot, and I'm really not sure if he has the forces and the dropships and the map control in order to move his dropships around and get forces to where they need to be.
Yeah, fortunately, really still has the units that he had in the choke of the 9 o'clock base. So if he goes for some sort of sandwich with the units that are above the tanks that Flash has in that base right now, as well as a drop at the same time, then really could be able to clean this up. He absolutely needs this position. If he loses this position, allows Flash to take over those bases and start building turrets there, then that's pretty much going to be it for really. Being contained to such a small part of the map, he's not going to be able to get the amount of bases he'll need for the late game. Flash coming in here with a bunch of dropships, dropping his tanks out first, I think really has another drop coming at the same time, and actually he might divert them away, seeing the amount of troops that Flash dropped, and actually, yeah, just dropping the tanks outside here, cleaning up a few reinforcements. It might go for some sort of positioning in the middle of the map, perhaps giving up the position at the 9 o'clock, and actually, he's just wandering his troops into tanks that are already set up for Flash, so carelessly losing a few units here, yeah, and really just in a GG, because he just lost his complete army there.
Yeah, that was not pretty. Really, I thought really was going to be in a good spot after he snuck that bottom left base. He had 3 bases going that I don't think Flash knew about. I thought he was going to be in a pretty solid position there to, make something happen. But I think that I think the game was very, very close, and then suddenly really with that bad drop, when Flash came in and dropped the 9 o'clock position really with a bad counter drop, and at that point he didn't have the forces around because Flash brought in a second round of units before really was able to bring his second round of units, and at that point really was just in such a terrible tactical, geographic, territorial position that he didn't have a lot of choices, and he picked one and it just did not work out for him, so he was forced to GG, and Flash gives KT the 3-2 lead in the series.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the same score that we had yesterday again. So it's going to be, I would imagine, I can't imagine anyone but Solkey coming out next game. So Solkey, the whole team is depending on him right now. He probably won't have a really hard game to play against since most of KT's good players have come out already. I would imagine maybe someone like Barrett's coming out. Yeah, so Solkey should be able to get the win and take us through the ace match, which I would love to see. Probably going to be 0 versus Flash again, although Sophie could go out depending on how well he does. So definitely not over yet, but KT is definitely in the lead 3-2 here with a good chance to tie up the series 1-1.
Yeah, and I think we'll be back for set 6 after the ads. I think I'm going to mute my mic again during the ads because nothing else to talk about. I'll see you guys when the next game starts.